You've always felt something different. Not just a passing thought or a random feeling, but a deep, unshakable knowing that you were never meant to be ordinary. It started early, didn't it? While others laughed without wondering why, you observed. While they followed blindly, you asked the forbidden questions. You sensed things others couldn't explain, noticed the energy in the room change before anyone else reacted, felt drained around chaos and lit up by peace. You saw through masks people didn't even realize they were wearing. That wasn't anxiety, that wasn't overthinking, that was sensitivity, spiritual sensitivity, a radar that only the chosen ones carry. And it was never broken. It was built for something greater. You never fully fit in because you were never meant to. The world taught you that different was wrong. But in truth, different was divine. You were never meant to copy the crowd. You were designed to awaken it. And even when you tried to bury that light, to play small, to hide behind normal, something always pulled you back to center, back to truth, back to destiny. That was the mark on your spirit, the signature of the Creator. Because some souls were designed not to blend in, but to break patterns. You may not have realized it at the time, but life has been separating you for a reason. Slowly, subtly, and then suddenly. What once felt fun now feels draining. The friends you used to bond with over meaningless chatter no longer feel like home. The job that once seemed like the dream now feels like a cage. Your tolerance for fake smiles, shallow conversations, and empty routines has vanished. You've been pulled away, and at first you might have thought you were losing yourself, but in truth you were being rescued from a life that could never carry your soul to its true destination. The chosen are not removed to be punished. They are set apart to be refined. And right now, that process is happening to you. You're noticing it. You're feeling it. That discomfort isn't coincidence. It's the beginning of awakening. The divine is pulling you out of old systems, old identities, old timelines, because what's ahead requires a version of you that this world has never seen. You're being called to release the imitation of who you were trained to be, so you can become who you were born to be. And what's truly wild is that most people around you won't understand it. They'll call it a phase, or think you're being distant, difficult, or even delusional. But deep down, you know this is real. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about being aligned with your purpose. You've walked through fires that would have broken others. You've survived things no one clapped for. You've smiled through storms just to keep the peace. But all along, your spirit was being shaped, sharpened, trained. That tension you feel, it's the price of transformation, and it means you're right where you need to be, set apart, not to suffer, but to soar. It's easy to question why your life feels paused, like you're in limbo while the rest of the world races forward. But let me tell you a secret most people never understand. The most powerful souls are always prepared in silence. You're not being ignored. You're not being overlooked. You are being refined. The divine does not rush greatness. You are in a sacred season of construction. It may feel like isolation, like doors are closing, like progress is slowing, but this is not delay. This is design. A house built in haste collapses in storms, but a foundation rooted in truth can withstand any quake. You are that house. What's being built within you now will one day shelter others, guide others, protect others. But you cannot pour into the world from an empty vessel. That's why this season feels heavy. It's sacred weight. You are being taught lessons you cannot learn in the spotlight. You are developing the character, the clarity, the courage that your future will demand. No one claps for the roots beneath a tree, but without them, the tree doesn't stand. And yes, it gets lonely. There are days when you wonder if the promise was a lie. Days when you question if the visions you held close were just fantasy. But I promise you, what you're building now in secret will one day be revealed in glory. This is not a detour. This is the path. You weren't chosen for easy. You were chosen for impact, the kind that shakes generations, the kind that breaks cycles, and impact is always preceded by intense preparation. So if life feels quiet, if heaven feels silent, it's not because you're forgotten. It's because you're being trusted. And what's being written in your silence will one day be spoken through your story. Keep going. This silence is sacred. This pause is powerful. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are right on time. Have you noticed how the attacks on your peace have grown sharper lately? How your mind seems to race when it used to rest easily? How strange delays, unexpected losses, or sudden betrayals appear out of nowhere, one after another, like waves trying to knock you off your feet just as you were beginning to rise. That's not random. That's not bad luck. That's spiritual warfare, and it intensifies when your breakthrough is near. The closer you get to your calling, the more the resistance rises, because darkness doesn't waste its energy on those who are asleep. It targets the ones who are waking up, the ones who are starting to see clearly, the ones who are stepping into their light. If you're being hit from all sides, it's not because you're weak, it's because your next level is shaking the foundation of the old. You are becoming a threat to the systems that once controlled you, a threat to generational patterns that were never meant to pass through you. The enemy isn't afraid of your past, he's terrified of your future. So, if the pressure has become unbearable, if the emotional weight feels suffocating, if even your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling, remember this: the storm you're in is not a punishment, it's proof. Proof that you're stepping into a level of authority and purpose that requires spiritual armor, mental discipline, and unshakable faith. This season of attack is not here to break you, it's here to build you into someone who cannot be moved, no matter how loud the winds howl. Hold the line, keep going. Heaven is closer than it feels, and every blow you've taken is being recorded in realms you cannot see. The reward is already in motion. So often we think delay means denial. We assume if something hasn't happened by now, maybe it never will. But what if I told you that the waiting is sacred, that what you think is a setback is actually a safeguard? See, divine timing doesn't run on human clocks. The things that are meant for you are not late. They're aligning with your character, aligning with the maturity you're developing, aligning with the version of you that knows how to carry the blessing without losing your soul in the process. Because what's coming isn't small, it isn't average, it isn't cheap. It's massive, it's divine. And with that kind of weight comes a level of preparation most people never see. Your timeline is being written by a hand that sees the whole picture, not just the moment you're in. Maybe if the opportunity had come a year ago, you wouldn't have been ready. Maybe the people around you then would have sabotaged it. Maybe you needed to break before you could bloom. What you thought was a pause was actually protection. What you called nothing happening was really everything shifting. Behind the curtain, connections are forming, doors are being readied, hearts are being softened, and the path you couldn't see is being paved with precision. You weren't forgotten, you were being aligned. And when your moment arrives, it won't trickle in quietly. It will crash into your life like a wave of undeniable grace. Suddenly, everything will make sense. Every number, every delay, every tear, all of it will have a purpose. All of it will be worth it. Don't rush the masterpiece. Trust the artist. Think about how many times in your life you were overlooked. How many moments you sat in the back, watching others get the attention, the applause, the spotlight, while you stayed in the shadows, doubting yourself, wondering if you were invisible. But the truth is, you weren't invisible. You were hidden. Not because you lacked value, but because you carried something too sacred for premature exposure. There are gifts inside you so powerful, so rare, that heaven chose to protect them. Because if you had been seen too early, you would have been surrounded by people who only wanted to consume your light, not honor it. You would have attracted users, manipulators, and counterfeit connections who saw your glow but not your heart. And so you were covered, sheltered, not buried, but preserved. And it hurt, didn't it? To be passed over, underestimated, told you were too much or not enough, all while carrying galaxies inside you. But here's the secret. The hiding wasn't holding you back. It was holding you together. It was giving you space to grow in silence, to strengthen your roots, to develop your discernment, so that when you finally emerged, you wouldn't come out begging for validation. You'd come out walking in purpose. And now the shift is happening. The veil is lifting. People who never noticed you before are suddenly drawn to you. Opportunities that once ignored you are starting to knock. It's not because you changed. It's because your season did. And when the divine says it's time, no force on earth can keep you hidden. You don't need to chase exposure. You just need to keep becoming. Because the moment you stop trying to be seen and start living from your soul, the world will have no choice but to take notice. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. And that kind of presence, that kind of light, it cannot be denied. One of the hardest lessons the chosen ones must learn is that not everyone is meant to go with you. It's painful. It feels unfair. Because your heart is big and your loyalty runs deep. You believed certain people would walk beside you forever. You dreamed with them, struggled with them, celebrated with them. But the closer you move toward your purpose, the more obvious it becomes. Some people were only ever meant to be part of your preparation, not your promotion. And that realization stings, because love doesn't just vanish. History doesn't just dissolve. You remember the laughter, the promises, the plans, but now the conversations feel forced. The energy feels heavy. The alignment is off. And no matter how much you try to rekindle that old connection, it feels like talking to someone who's not really there anymore. That's not you being cold. That's your spirit outgrowing the cage it once sat quietly inside. You are evolving. You are expanding. And not everyone will evolve with you. Some will resent your growth because it reminds them of their stagnation. Some will call you distant when really you're just protecting your peace. Others will try to guilt you into staying small so they don't feel abandoned. But you must choose your future over your familiarity. Not out of arrogance, but out of obedience to the calling that's pulling you higher. You cannot carry dead weight into a destiny that demands wings. And you are not responsible for how people interpret your growth. You're only responsible for honoring the light within you. Some chapters require letting go of characters who no longer fit the storyline. And when you do it with love, not bitterness, with peace, not pride, you make room for the divine to send you connections that are in alignment, not just in proximity. Because the ones who are meant to walk with you now won't need convincing. They'll feel like home without explanation. They'll water your roots, not compete with your branches. And together, you'll build something the past could never hold. You've kept your truth inside for too long. You've swallowed your wisdom, quieted your spirit, dimmed your light so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable in your presence. You told yourself it was humility. You told yourself it was patience. But deep down, you knew it was fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being too much. Fear of being rejected for being real. But that fire inside you, it wasn't meant to be managed. It was meant to move people. Your voice was never just your own. It's the echo of generations, the vibration of something eternal moving through flesh and bone, designed to shift atmospheres and awaken sleeping souls. That burning in your chest every time you see injustice, every time you hear lies disguised as truth, every time you witness people accept mediocrity as destiny, that's not just emotion. That's divine urgency. That's your assignment tapping on the walls of your heart, begging to be released. You weren't sent here to blend into the background. You were sent to be a signal, a living message. You don't need a platform to speak truth. You are the platform. Every room you enter shifts because of the energy you carry. And the moment you stop waiting for perfect timing, perfect confidence, or perfect approval, and start speaking from the place of knowing, from the depth of experience, from the fire of conviction, people will listen. Not because your voice is loud, but because it's authentic, because it carries frequency, because it cuts through noise like a sword of clarity. There are people out there right now praying for the exact message you've been holding in silence. There are souls starving for the truth you've been too afraid to speak. And when you finally release it, when you finally stop apologizing for who you are and what you carry, you'll realize something powerful. Your voice wasn't made to please the masses. It was crafted to reach the remnant, the rare ones, the ready ones. And once you start speaking, the right ones will recognize you, not because you sound like everyone else, but because your truth awakens something they forgot was even there. Speak, write, create, building, move. You've been quiet long enough. It's time to echo heaven. There's a moment coming where the blessings meant for you will arrive in such abundance, such power, such undeniable favor that even you will stand in silent awe. Because it won't make logical sense. It won't add up on paper. It won't match your resume, your connections, or your past. You'll look around and realize this didn't come from hustle alone. This didn't come from strategy or networking or being in the right place at the right time. This came from something greater. This was divine. See, the chosen ones are built in silence, tested in fire, and rewarded in mystery. You've been planting seeds no one saw, watering them with tears no one noticed, showing up when no one clapped, staying faithful when everything around you looked like failure. And now the harvest is coming. Not because you earned it in a transactional sense, but because you endured when others quit. You stayed pure in a world that profits from corruption. You remained humble in a culture addicted to attention. You gave when you had little, forgave when you were wronged, prayed even when you were broken. Heaven took note. And what's on its way to you now is not a reward, it's a recognition. A reflection of who you became when no one was watching. The doors that are about to open will not be ones you knocked on. They will be ones that swing wide because your spirit matched the frequency of divine alignment. People will try to explain it. They'll assume you had help, that you knew someone on the inside. But the truth is, your only inside connection was with the Creator Himself. That's why the blessings will come faster than expected, bigger than imagined, and more specific than you dared to pray for. Because this isn't just about you. It's about what you'll do with it. You've been trusted with abundance because you were faithful with little. And now that you're stepping into overflow, it's not to hoard, it's to heal, to build, to bless. So don't be surprised when miracles start interrupting your routine, when divine appointments replace failed plans, when favor finds you in rooms you weren't invited to. You don't have to chase what's already been written in your destiny. Just stay aligned, stay available, and let the unexplainable unfold before you. You were never meant to live like everyone else. And the fact that you're still here, still listening, still searching for truth, that says everything. This message didn't find you by accident. It was timed with precision, sent into your life at a moment when your spirit was ready to remember what it always knew. You are part of something greater, something ancient, something sacred. You are one of the chosen, not chosen for comfort, but for clarity. Not chosen for applause, but for alignment. Not chosen to escape the chaos, but to bring light into it. You've been sensing it for a while now, this rising within you, this urgency, this longing that has no name, but feels too real to ignore. That's your soul awakening. That's destiny stirring. That's the divine blueprint unfolding inside of you. You've been prepared for this moment through every struggle, every loss, every quiet season of growth. The pain wasn't pointless. The delays weren't denial. They were all activations, chapters that trained your heart for what comes next. Because now, more than ever, the world needs the ones who remember, the ones who see past the noise, the ones who feel when something isn't right, the ones who can stand firm when the ground beneath everyone else is shaking. You were made for this. You're not crazy. You're calibrated. Your dreams are not random. They are remnants of a higher calling trying to break through the fog of survival and remind you who you truly are. You don't need more validation. You don't need permission. You need conviction. You need to look in the mirror and finally say, it's time. Time to walk in alignment. Time to release the fear. Time to live from your soul instead of your wounds. Because once a chosen one awakens, the entire world around them begins to shift. Not because they demand it, but because their energy, their presence, their purpose becomes impossible to ignore. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to be real. You don't have to fight for a seat at the table. You are the table. What's ahead of you is not just another chapter. It's a new book, a new dimension, a new realm of influence, peace, and power. All that's required is that you stop doubting and start deciding. To finally own your light, your voice, your journey, because the time of hiding is over. The time of playing small is done. This is the beginning, the moment everything changes. The awakening has already begun, and now it's your move. But here's the truth most people don't understand. When a chosen one awakens, they don't just shift their life, they send out a ripple across time and space. The energy they carry begins to affect everything around them, people, patterns, probabilities. Suddenly what was once blocked begins to open. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. You'll start to see strange alignments. Someone mentions exactly what you were thinking. A book falls into your hands at the right moment. An opportunity appears the same day you felt like giving up. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations, evidence that the path is real, that the fire inside you wasn't delusion, it was direction. The unseen realm is always watching, always moving, always orchestrating behind the veil. And now it's moving for you, because you chose to rise when it would have been easier to stay silent. You chose to walk alone when it would have been more comfortable to stay surrounded by the familiar. You chose growth over validation, truth over comfort, alignment over approval. That choice, made in the dark, unlocked light that cannot be taken from you. And now, your steps are no longer random, they are guided. And yet, even with all of this, don't expect everyone to understand you. Your elevation will make some people uncomfortable, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you remind them of who they could be if they stopped settling. Your strength will trigger their insecurity. Your clarity will mirror their confusion. Your voice will disturb their silence. But let it. Let your very existence shake stagnant waters. You were never meant to walk gently through life, hoping not to be seen. You were meant to blaze trails through the wilderness and mark paths for others to follow. You are not the exception. You are the blueprint. And while many will resist you, the ones who recognize you will rise with you. You're not here to save everyone, but you are here to wake the ones who were born for more, the ones who've been asleep inside the lives they were told to accept. Your light won't just shine, it will awaken. There will be moments where the weight of the calling feels unbearable, where isolation grips your chest and the noise of the world drowns out your inner knowing. You'll want to retreat, to quit, to convince yourself that maybe the vision was too big, maybe you heard wrong, maybe you should just settle. But that's when you must remember. Remember why you started. Remember who you are. Remember the fire, the whispers, the signs. Remember the nights you cried out and promised you'd keep going if just one door opened. Well, now the doors are opening, not all at once, but enough to let you know that the heavens have not forgotten you. Your name is still written, your purpose is still alive, and the pain you've carried. It was never in vain. It was proof that you were being formed into someone that this world needs, not someone it merely wants. You were born with spiritual DNA that cannot be duplicated. Your fingerprint carries frequencies that unlock what others cannot touch. Your intuition, your sensitivity, your compassion, they are not weaknesses, they are tools. Sacred instruments fine-tuned to hear the instructions that others miss. Your burdens have been many, but so have your lessons. You've learned to discern false light. You've learned how to protect your peace. You've learned how to hear in silence, how to move without applause, how to rebuild yourself again and again without losing the essence of who you are. That kind of power doesn't come from comfort, it comes from calling. And you answered. So now what? Now you keep rising. You walk with deeper awareness. You speak when prompted. You love without attachment. You trust even when you don't understand. You release what no longer resonates. And above all, you remember that your life isn't just a personal journey, it's a divine assignment. Everything you touch, everything you speak, everything you are carries the vibration of destiny. You are a walking portal, a sacred vessel, a signal to others that it's safe to remember, safe to heal, safe to awaken. So the next time you doubt, the next time the fear creeps in or the delay stretches longer than your patience can bear, come back to this truth. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are exactly where you are meant to be. The wilderness is not the end. It is the initiation. And on the other side of it is a version of you that will look back at this season, not with regret, but with reverence. Because you'll realize that this was not the breakdown. It was the becoming. The real story didn't start when they applauded you. It started when you chose to rise, even when no one was watching. And that moment, that sacred, silent decision to keep going, that was the million-dollar moment that changed everything.